It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of April 21st, 2006. Now, on today's show, we have an adaptation of a classic video game franchise. We know how those went back in the day, so we don't know if we're going to get any good ones, or more than likely we're going to get the bad ones. But we also have Michael Douglas starring in a political thriller, and the latest film from the director of About a Boy. Before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the biggest new release of the weekend, which is the aforementioned Silent Hill. So as you can see, the movie definitely has the style and the feel of Silent Hill, but visuals don't always make the movie, as we'll see in the case of this film, which follows Rose Da Silva, played by Radha Mitchell, who takes her adopted child, Sharon, to the town of Silent Hill, for which Sharon cries while sleepwalking. Rose is involved in a car accident near the town and awakens to find Sharon missing. When she's searching for her daughter, she flights a local code and begins to uncover Sharon's connection to the town's dark past. And you have a cast that includes Sean Bean, Laurie Holden, pre-Walking Dead, Deborah Kara Unger, Kim Coates, Alice Krieg, Jodelle Ferland, directed by Christopher Gans, who directed Brotherhood of the Wolf from a couple years back, and written by Roger Avery, the writer of Pulp Fiction, who did the best he could to try to get the feel of Silent Hill, right down to the fact that he was literally playing the game while he was writing the script. So, in a way, he's got the right idea. Just the execution overall really hurts the film in the long run. I mean, the film looks like the games. I mean, they do a pretty good job of making it look like the video games. It's just the movie itself has a really lazy script overall. And I think that really is the major problem with a lot of these video games in general, that you can look as good as the video games do, but it's the script that really hurts you in the long run. We've been lucky to get a couple of really good video games nowadays, with mostly kids stuff, really. The Angry Birds movies, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, Detective Pikachu. I mean, video games as a whole, the Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, the video game movies now have gotten so much better over time. I mean, it was like that for comic book movies for the longest time until, movies like Spider-Man and Iron Man really changed the game overall. And this film does a very good job visually creating the look and feel of Silent Hill. If the script had been a lot better, I really would say that this is one of the better video game adaptations, but considering that there was a sequel that came out a couple years later, and that really, really dropped the ball overall on both the visuals and the script, I gotta give this movie a lot more credit than that. I mean, if the script had been a lot better, this probably would have been one of the great video game adaptations, but as it is, it's okay. It's nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing, at least in my opinion it isn't, but it's got the visual feel. Just the script needed a much better rewrite to it, to really, a little more of a punch to it, to really make it stand out on its own. So that's the Silent Hill. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is the political thriller, The Sentinel. So essentially, you've got Jack Bauer from 24 and Gabrielle from Desperate Housewives teaming up to take down Michael Douglas, as the movie is about a veteran U.S. Secret Service agent played by Douglas who's suspected of treason after an attempted assassination of the president reveals that someone within the service is supplying information to the assassins. Kim Basinger is playing the First Lady in here, and I thought that Michael Douglas and Kim Basinger were in a movie before this. I don't think they ever were, honestly. As far as I know, they weren't. I know Michael Douglas was in movies with Sharon Stone, but I had to look, and I don't remember any movie with Michael Douglas or Kim Basinger involved in it, and together until this movie came out. And this film has kind of been there, done that before. We've seen this kind of story done so many times before in the past. It starts off with a very interesting concept overall, but then just turns into a rejected version of The Fugitive mixed in with a little bit of In the Line of Fire. And there really isn't enough there to give that movie the extra spark that it really needs. And, everybody's trying their best in here. Michael Douglas is doing an okay job in here. So is Kim Basinger, Ava Longoria, Kiefer Sutherland. This is directed by Clark Johnson, who did SWAT, which was a fun movie, but a little too much for its own good to say it's a great film in general. But this movie overall is really kind of a mixed bag movie. It's a film that's very sloppy at times. The twist at the end really kind of comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really amount to anything in the long run. And the film just overall really, really suffers when it matters the most. And it's not a very good movie. It's a lackluster film, and it wastes a lot of really good talent involved in here. I feel like there could have been so much more to it, but it just can't decide if it wants to be its own thing or just rip off something like The Fugitive or In the Line of Fire, which are movies that did this concept much better overall. But yeah, not much more to say about this one. That's The Sentinel for you. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is a movie that you probably have never even heard of, but it also deals with the world of politics. This is American Dreams. And it basically is kind of a very, very clustered movie overall. I mean, you have Hugh Grant starring as the host of a talent show called American Dreams, at which he despises each new season. It's a hit with the ratings. And Tweed decides that it's time for a new and interesting batch of contestants and sends out his team to find the weirdest bunch possible. With all this happening, the President of the United States, played by Dennis Quaid, is becoming more and more depressed and relies on his chief of staff, played by Willem Dafoe, to talk him through everything, even if into appearing as a judge on the TV show. Perfect news for the terrorists who use the talent contest as a way to reach the president. I mean, Jesus Christ, there is a lot going on in this movie, and because of that, the movie kind of suffers in the long run. The film is supposed to be like a parody of, popular entertainment along with politics, and trying to combine all that into this one movie really, really hurts the film in the long run, because the film really does suffer because of it. It doesn't have an identity of what it wants to be. It wastes a lot of really good talent, too. Like, I think Dennis Quaid overall does give his best performance in this movie. I mean, of what he's trying to do here. I think he really is doing a good job here, even though he's basically just being an impersonation of who was the president at the time, George W. Bush. And I mean, it's funny. It can be funny at times. Hugh Grant, I think, is okay in the movie. Mandy Moore's kind of wasted in here. Marcia Gay Harden also is kind of wasted in here. You have Jennifer Coolidge, Willem Dafoe, as I mentioned, Chris Klein. And this was the first real summer for the Whites in general. They were on a roll before this with American Pie, About a Boy, In Good Company, and this was their next film. And you really expected so much more from them, and then this is a film that just really kind of falls apart pretty quickly. It can't decide what direction it wants to go into, what side does it want to be a part of, and it just is a jumbled mess overall, wasting a lot of really good, talented people on a film that's not really that strong overall. It's a real disappointment of a film, considering the talent involved, considering the people that are involved in the writing of this movie, the direction of it. You really do expect so much more from it, and unfortunately, the film just doesn't have it in the long run, so unfortunately, this is a hard skip. It's a really bad movie. It's a really lackluster film. I'd say avoid it like the plague. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. And the next time we meet, we'll take a look at 4 more movies to wrap up the month of April, with Robin Williams starring in Barry Sonnenfeld's RV, which does not feel like a Barry Sonnenfeld movie if you've seen his work beforehand. The controversial United 93 from director Paul Greengrass, Jeff Bridges starring in the dance comedy Stick It, not even a dance comedy, but a gymnastics comedy, and also Keke Palmer starring in Akiva and the Bee, and we'll take a look at those 4 movies all in the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to get updates on when new videos come out. We post every day. With all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.